Everybody, welcome back. We just did this like 30 seconds ago, but none of you saw it because we didn't quite go live. But don't worry about that. We're going to pretend it didn't happen. So, as I was saying, this is, my friend Ben Hoyt, who I have known for a very long time. I know it was when GDC was in San Jose.
It was GDC 2001.
Jesus, that's old. Okay, so anyway, I still have hair. He doesn't.
Yeah, no.
So I win. We're talking about we just had a Discord based session a couple of hours ago, and Paul came on and was talking about best practices and how you promote your server and how you build a healthy community, and it was awesome. And I learned stuff. But now we're going to talk about Discord, but in a completely different manner. So you have started with a new studio. Ben is a freelance producer, very good at what he does. But you started with them right as the pandemic hit. And so all of a sudden, everybody's virtual, and you turned your server into a virtual office.
Yeah, well, it's interesting actually because I did start working with this company right in early April after the pandemic had started, and the truth is this company was already a remote distributed team, and so they had been operating in a distributed fashion since before I came on board, and this was really the first project that I've tried to manage where the entire team was not, everybody was operating from their own home office effectively. There is no centralized office. That's definitely new for me, and I immediately started to feel, as the project manager, the absence of that sort of, what we call a co-located office environment, that there are aspects of that I think are really valuable, particularly for creative teams and game development teams, that we weren't able to enjoy because it was a distributed team. And so I came up with, this idea of using Discord, which I had been using quite a bit, just as a player, as a gamer, to play multiplayer games with my friends, as a tool for managing this project, and have been very pleased with the results so far.
So, what were the first challenges that you hit? Because I would imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, but if they're already distributed, they had some way of communicating, be it Slack, Hangouts, Teams, how was that going? Why did you need to change it?
Yeah,
go to Discord?
I would say that they were leveraging, so the project and the company I had worked for immediately prior to this one was in a similar, but not exactly the same situation, in that they had multiple offices. So we had, groups of people working together in a co-located office, but then coordinating with a team from LA to London. And so as you can imagine, there is a degree of this similar challenges that you have with a distributed team in an environment like that, where you have, time zone differences, and you don't have people who are face to face with each other. And so I had seen how that company was trying to, tackle those challenges, and this company that I had come to was using many of the same tools, right? So those are things that probably a lot of people are familiar with if they deal with any kind of an external vendor or partner or anything like that. It would be things like a Google Hangout, Slack, or some equivalent kind of text chat service. Probably Google Drive and Google Docs, that are all, very powerful tools in and of themselves. But, I still felt that there was something missing, or that at least the combination of those tools was not able to offer all of the benefits that you can get when you have significant or key portions of your team co-located. And so that was really what caused me to kind of seek out another solution. And coincidentally, at the time that I came on board, this company that I was working for had been in the midst of trying to answer the question for themselves of what solution they wanted to use as a text chat solution, and they had explored and were considering at least 3 different options. One was Telegram, one was Slack, and another was a program whose name has slipped my mind at the moment. But there were different advocates within the company who liked different features of each of them as text chat solutions, but they were looking at them in that context as sort of an option that would complement things like Google Hangouts and Google Meetings and Google Docs and stuff.
So, what were the advantages of Discord versus, and we can just look at the
Sure.
top ones that everybody, Slack and Google Meet, for instance. So
I would say that the single defining most significant difference between Discord and anything else that I have seen, and I do believe there may be at least one other enterprise solution that's out there that offers a similar feature, but certainly if you're comparing it to the other sort of widely known programs that we just talked about, the key difference of Discord is that it has this sort of always on server element to it, right? That your Discord channel is always there, and you as a user may come and go, but it's persistent. And so that is a key difference between it and something like Zoom, which is session-based, where you have to schedule a meeting and then you get a specific URL and then people join that URL and they are present for the course of that meeting. But then when you end the meeting, effectively that session goes away. And that means that even if, say, we had, just like in the real office, we might have had a meeting in a conference room, and then we broke for the meeting and we ended, and then like 3 feet out the door of the conference room, someone was like, "Oh shit, there's something I just thought of that we should. I had one more question, or there's something else that we want to talk about." Like, you're kind of screwed in Zoom, right? Like, you've got to go, reschedule another Zoom meeting in order to continue that, or maybe you can get that one person on a direct text message or something like that. But there isn't that sort of like, oh, I'm just going to literally just pop my head back into the room that I just left and continue the conversation. Whereas Discord does offer that, because the room is still there. You can still see where the people were that you were just in that meeting with. They may still be in that room. They may have gone off to other rooms, but it begins to give you these sort of behaviors that are more reminiscent of being in a physical place, right? Because Discord is always on and people are always in one channel or another, there is a sort of quasi-physicality to it that I think is significant in its difference from these other solutions.
I think you could ask any number of people that I used to work with in an actual office, and they will say my general mental capacity is like a Zoom meeting, because once I walk out of that door in the meeting, that session is closed. There is no getting it back. You're doing good if I can remember some of it. So that's
well, maybe Zoom's the perfect solution for you then, Jay.
So, I mean, we were the same way here. And obviously I've been running the Powell group for 10 years, completely distributed. And the production studio I ran the 3 years before that was completely distributed, with overseas studios that we were working with. We switched from Slack after Slack came out to Discord internally. And I know why we did it. When you've got things that it's like, I get it with Zoom, but Slack and Discord feature-wise are pretty close. What was the tipping point? Why weren't people using Slack and then they started using Discord?
Well, it's a good question. The other major feature, I think, is that Discord is an audio first solution, whereas Slack is a text first solution, right? Like Slack, I don't even know what Slack's audio functionality is like, but Discord is its DNA comes from being a solution for groups of gamers that want to, play games together, which means that the primary use case involves users being on voice chat with each other, whereas Slack is much more text first, and arguably I would say probably a more robust solution when it comes to its text related functionality than Discord is. In answer to the question that just popped up, this is an entirely.
Remember, we are converting this to a podcast at some point, and those people can't see what the question is.
Oh, fair enough.
So we got to read them when we pop them up. So, question from YouTube: is your Discord internal only, or do you use it for community and public facing as well? If both, how do you balance work task notifications versus community chatter?
It's entirely internal. So we don't even have an external Discord server, but I can imagine that happening at some point in the future. If we did, it would be in a completely separate server, silo from our internal one.
It's a popular question because that same question popped up in the last one. I mean, we use the IGB one for both, but at the same time, we're not such a big company that we're flipping top secret memos back and forth to each other. Somebody had pointed out earlier that there are basically Discord hackers who can see all your private rooms and locked rooms and what's in them. I was actually unaware of that, but there's that. So the reason. So you had a much longer, well thought out reason than I would give for why we switched from Slack to Discord. Discord was free and Slack cost money. That was basically
it's also valid. Although on that point, it was funny because I was talking with some of my colleagues at work just yesterday in the context of this talk that we're having now, and mentioning this to them, and in the course of that conversation, there was. That someone mentioned, there are these boosts and server perks that you can pay for to upgrade your Discord channel, and I there was a collective light bulb went on, and we were all like, oh, maybe we should look into that stuff, because it's really not that expensive, and I do think that it's pretty likely that we will begin paying for premium Discord features in the not too distant future, primarily because those paid benefits include improved audio and video quality, which is definitely something that you always enjoy the benefit of. Although I will add that one of the reasons that I think we like Discord is that, again, with its DNA being as a streaming solution for gamers, it offers better voice and audio and video streaming out of the box than I think I experience with Zoom and Google Hangouts and stuff like that. It's just it's really good quality even in the free level for both of those things.
So we actually I started paying whatever the Nitro thing was for Discord very early on, and it wasn't to get a feature. It was because
you wanted the emojis, right?
Well, there's that. But I was just like, this is good. I'll pay for it. And it was still not what we were paying for Slack. Yeah. But, you mentioned the boosts, and I'm the only one who has ever boosted our server. I haven't asked people to do it either.
Well, it is your server too, though, Jay. So you should be the one boosting your server.
I mean, still, we got 1,500 people on there now.
Oh, fair enough.
It's never something that I've ever.
Come on, you guys, boost Jay's server for him.
I don't know what it does, but sure, boost it. It is. That was the main thing. It wasn't like I was like, okay, we're going to pay for this because I unlocked blah, blah, blah. Until you said that, I didn't realize that's why we had emojis that were different, but we do. The difference was I don't mind, even as a business owner, I don't mind paying for something that's effective and that does what I need it to do. I just think that goes along.
I mean, I'm not even exaggerating at all. In fact, I'm probably slightly understating this. One of the two principal founders of the company that I'm working with, who really quickly adopted Discord themselves, said at one point relatively early on, I would have paid let's just call it thousands of dollars for what Discord was suddenly, enabling for the company, because the sort of unexpected benefits for a team, particularly a creative development team, are, in my opinion, pretty significant. There's these sort of social. One of my colleagues, when we were talking about it last night, called it a social prestige that comes with these moments where you see that there's a room full of your colleagues who are clearly all in the same place on a voice conversation working on something together. And what it really reminded me of is that experience that you have in an office where you walk past a conference room and like all your peers are in a meeting and you go, wait, what's going on in that room? Why am I not in that meeting? Right? Like, it was fascinating to me that Discord, purely without any effort at all, evokes that same reaction of people, right? That same sense of like, oh, I got to be on my game because I see my peers at work right now. I see those people in that room having a meeting. I see those executives up there talking to each other in one of their offices. I see, and you're like, I need to be present. I want to know why I'm not in that room. Like, what are they talking about? Like, it has those same kinds of subconscious sort of motivational impacts on people that you simply don't get in a session-based solution.
Peer pressure. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, well, social prestige. That's the term I
call it whatever you want, Ben. It's peer pressure, all right?
Hey, I'm a producer, man. If it motivates my team to want to be there and work harder, I'm all for it.
In the immortal words of Craig, peer pressure is a mother.
It's FOMO, all right? It's FOMO. It's not peer pressure.
Yeah, whatever.
But it does. It creates this sense of a shared physical space, and the idea that there's an actual office that you get up in the morning and you connect to, and you can see people at, and when you're done at the end of the day, you log out. And we don't make it mandatory. Like, there's some people who prefer to not be logged in all the time, and you have to say, send them a Telegram message or something and say, hey, can you come meet me in my office or something like that. But there are a number of people who are just always in there, and they have little music bots playing. So when you pop into their room, there's music playing, and they're just working away. And you can literally do that. You can just what's really become interesting to me is the ways in which I have found that it is actually better than a physical office. Like, that was something I wasn't expecting, and that I was assuming, like, okay, maybe this will be like as good as or close to as good as having people in a physical office. And in some respects that is true, but there are these areas where I've been surprised to find that it's actually better than a physical office.
So why?
Well, for one thing, and I mean, I'm a very lazy person by nature, but for one thing, I can jump. It's like I can teleport from one person's office to another, right? Like, oh, I need to talk to this executive. Boom, I click on their office and I'm talking to them. Oh, that's a question for this programmer. Boom, I click on their office and I'm in their office talking to them.
I was waiting for, like, I don't have to wear pants. I wasn't waiting for teleportation. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, but I mean, it literally, like, in a physical office, there is physical distance, right? And physical distance creates friction. Discord doesn't have physical distance. So you can move between these virtual offices instantaneously with no effort. That reduces friction, that increases crosstalk and communication, right?
But that also, there's a dark side to that. That also interrupts, it brings in interruptions and, all those things that we hate about being in an office where you're trying to get something done. And here's somebody.
There's nothing stopping you from just disconnecting from the server, and then my tech director does this all the time. He's like, I need to go not be distracted at all. I'm going to go put my head down. I won't be on Discord. I'm still working. You can get me on Telegram or text chat or whatever your solution is for that, but I'm not in my office on Discord. You can also set a user limit on any given voice channel on the server. So, like, if 3 people are trying to have a private meeting or they don't want to be interrupted, they can just edit that channel's user limit while they're in there to be equal to 3, and then no one else will be able to come in. So there are definitely ways to get the best of those worlds.
All right. So Buddy asked, what kind of expectations do you have for team members to be in their offices? Do you have unique office for every single member of the team? Do they have office hours?
Those are great questions, and those are all things that have evolved a bit as we've used the tool. So I just, this is my personal style. I try to avoid mandating things to people in the workplace in general, and I try instead to encourage people to do things. So I encourage the team to be present on the server as much of the day as possible, but I respect that different people have different work styles and need to be able to manage that for themselves. And so, we encourage people to be around as much as they can, but we also don't mandate it. We recently instituted, at least for several of the people I deal with the most, a concept of office hours, during which times people are expected to be around, logged in, and available. And that's really only about a 2-hour window during the day. And that's partly to do with the fact that we have people in different time zones. And so it's hard to really get a bigger window than that would make sense. But again, it comes back to not really wanting to mandate things. And there was a third piece of that question, but it's disappeared off my screen. I don't remember what the third part was, but I actually do think I had an answer for it.
Do you have a unique office for every member of the team?
Yes, the answer to that is yes. Every member of the team gets their own office and can hang out in their office. And in fact, some of us enjoy having a little fun with naming our offices. Most of them are, Jay's office, Ben's office, Andre's office. But, Kevin has Kevin's Cabana. I recently decided to change mine to Ben's Bungalow. Whatever. You can have a little fun with it, renaming your offices. But everybody has their own space, yeah.
Oh, that completely changes a lot.
Yeah, it does. It does, but in fun ways, right? It's funny. At one time, I think I had 7 people in one person's office, and I was just like, man, Andre, you've got a huge office, man. It's, but it is an interesting point. It gets back to an interesting advantage. Everyone's office is a conference room. Everyone's home workstation suddenly becomes a conference room, and you can have as many people in it as you need to. There's no physical constraint on that. One of the things that really jumped out to me as a powerful advantage, one of these places where I feel like Discord has empowered us in ways that are even better than what I saw in any of my previous co-located office situations, is and this is just based on my experience. Other people may have had better or more efficient solutions, but even in the development organizations I worked at in the past, where you get to a point on the project where you're trying to finish, you're trying to get the thing out the door, the whole team's working really hard, maybe you're crunching, everybody's there, and there's maybe some kind of a bug that is, preventing you from releasing. And so you've really got a bunch of the team members all really tried to focus on resolving a specific issue. In the case of, let's use a bug as an example, you might have a tester who is the person who has reproduced the bug. You might have a programmer whose code the bug exists in, a producer like me who is obviously very invested in getting it resolved, a tech director who is being called in to provide extra expertise or guidance because it's a problem and you need to bring in your big guns. That's at least 4 or 5 different people who might be focused on or relevant to resolving the issue. In a traditional office, I remember having had these moments where you sort of get that little pack of people shuffling around between different people's desks, right? You go over to the tester's desk and you see him reproduce the bug, and then you shuffle over to the programmer's desk and you see him pull up the code, and people are looking at the code and trying to figure it out. And some other programmer across the room is trying to, maybe look at the code on their machine, and it's pretty good. It's actually pretty, you got all these people all working on the same problem together. Discord lets everyone do that from the comfort of their home office. And so, most of us at this point have 2 monitors, right? So I can pull up a screen share with that group of people in Discord on one monitor, and then I can pull up a build of my application on my other monitor. and then I can independently be reproducing or poking around on that problem on my monitor while watching my tester show us what they're seeing and being able to say, oh, I'm not seeing that, or I am seeing that, or whatever. And then all of a sudden instantly flip that view for the entire group of people to the programmer's monitor so that the programmers can look at the code and say like, oh no, check out this, whatever. Then flip it back over to the, and like everyone is just sitting at their desks in each other's heads. And I call this the hive mind experience, and it's the closest thing. I was thinking about it yesterday. It's like the closest I've ever gotten to like a sci-fi hive mind, when you've got 5 people, each with their own specialized knowledge and expertise, all focused on the same problem, looking at the same thing, literally in each other's heads as they're speaking to each other. It's like really surreal. It's powerful, and like I think it has been very, very effective.
So, Jesus says, do you see this type of collaboration to be adopted more by indie games? Could it mean the abandonment of brick and mortar studios?
Well, I could see this kind of collaboration being adopted more by any kind of team, but I do think that there are still aspects of shared co-located spaces that are still better than even what Discord can offer, right? Like, the fact that when I'm in the office with people and I stop for lunch and we go to the lunchroom and we're talking about what's happening in our personal lives, or we're playing a board game or doing whatever types of things tend to bond people together in those shared spaces. Like you still don't get that on Discord, at least not anywhere near as effectively. And I would always want to have that, and I think it benefits in a number of subtle ways. But one of the things that occurred to me yesterday is like, boy, I'm really tempted, if I ever find myself, or the next time I find myself in a co-located development environment, really tempted to make sure that everybody on that team has a headset in Discord, so that when it comes time to try and troubleshoot a problem like that, we can jump into hive mind mode and we can do that thing from our desks at that office. I do think there are, best of both world options that are available.
So then Khalid said, is there, now I was going to get into this as well, are there extra tools that you're using with Discord that increase team production? And I'll throw my question in there as well. When you went from whatever the team was using before you got there and COVID hit the fan, what features of those other tools did you have to sacrifice, and how did you replace them? And that goes right along with this.
Sure.
What are you using to supplement Discord?
So we've almost completely stopped using Google Meetings, Google Hangouts, Zoom meetings. Those are gone. They get occasionally used, particularly if you have external participants. But if it's an internal only thing, there's really no need for those anymore. I would argue that Discord is one feature away from completely eliminating the need for additional text chat programs. We do still use Telegram. Telegram gets more usage. The Discord text chat gets a lot of usage, and one of the nice features about it is that you can write bots, and our programmers have written bots that leverage Discord text for a number of different purposes, so we use it a lot. But there is still an issue where if you need an immediate response, or if you really need to get a hold of someone quickly, we tend to use Telegram for that, because Telegram has read receipts and Discord doesn't. So you get that little second check mark that says, okay, delivered is the first check mark, read is the second check mark. And Telegram offers that and Discord doesn't. And there are times when you just really need to know, like, am I just sitting here waiting for this person to show up, or have they seen my message? And so if Discord added that, I think we would probably walk away from Telegram almost entirely as well. And then there are definitely other tools that we still use that are critical for a development organization. We make very heavy use of Jira and Confluence, to manage the project itself. And I wouldn't imagine that would change whether we were, in on Office or not. Those things are tools that I think are sort of serve a separate purpose. But email has to my surprise, I will say, as a person who spent their whole career as a very heavy email user, there's almost no use of email in this situation, and so far that hasn't been a problem. Although I think it's partly because this project is almost entirely internal development. We don't really have third-party, external vendors or contractors or things like that. If we did, there'd be more that needed to be sort of captured in email.
So one of the questions, and I'm going to share my screen here. To show this. So one of the questions was, how did you set up your structure? And so that might be so freaking tiny that you can't see anything.
Yeah, I would love to just bring it up and show everybody, but it's unfortunately, it's an internal only tool, and I don't have permission from everyone to, even share the names of the company or the team members and stuff like that. So I can't do that. But, if you can see on this little screen grab that you have up here, like, I have basically created, there's really sort of three high level groups of channels. There's a group of text chat channels, which include a number of sort of, let me see if I can pull it up here and refresh my memory. We've got.
I didn't hack Ben's account or anything. This is like literally in the article he wrote that I'm pulling up.
So we have a bunch of text channels. Some of them are basically bots, and then are driven by bots, and then we have memes and gaming and things that are sort of interest based, as well as group based chats. So like there's a support channel, a development channel, an HR channel, marketing channel, and those that are all text channels. And then the other two sort of high level groups that we have, one is called private offices, and that's sort of what I mentioned before, where there are each team member gets their own individualized room, and then of course we have what I call I guess it's technically two groups, although in retrospect I'd probably make it one, which is just open offices, conference rooms, and departmental offices. So they're just channels that sit there for groups of people to go and make use of on an ad hoc basis. And they can, a lot of those spend a lot of time empty, but they're there in case, the back end team decides they need to group up for something and they don't want to do it in someone's office. But it's almost, honestly, at this point, a lot of those are redundant, and like the individual private offices kind of get the job done. They can double as conference rooms very easily. So you could probably just get away with having a bunch of private offices and text channels.
So you mentioned bots.
Yeah.
What third-party bots do you use? And even with stuff that, because I've had several people recommend to our Discord, let's just program a bot. And I'm like, oh yeah, let me just program a bot to do that, because I haven't coded in 25 years. What tasks do you automate either through third-party bots or bots that you've created?
I'm gonna get a little hand wavy here because I'm even less of a programmer than you are. I probably couldn't code my way out of a paper bag if my life depended upon it. But I haven't created any of those bots, and I don't know whether we're using I'm sure we are using some third-party bots, but I wouldn't know which ones are third-party versus ones that we've created. But the use of the bots that I'm most familiar with, I can tell you that we're using some third-party music bots. So Groovy Bot and Rhythm Bot in Discord are bots that our devs will use just to run music while they're working and be able to share it with other people who are in the room. And then we also have bots that are written by us and leveraging our platform or monitoring our platform, and then using Discord as a way to notify relevant people when issues arrive. So the project has a bot that monitors financial transaction behavior on the platform, and if certain transactions go over limits or set off flags, the bot will post a message in the risk channel, and that will immediately catch the attention of our support and development teams so that they go and see, wait, what's going on with that risk notification. And I think we have other similar uses, like where we're mirroring our Twitter feed into a channel that's run by a bot. I think there's an RSS feed bot that is looking for mentions of the company out on the web and feeding that channel as well. But you're getting a little outside of my use cases that I engage with a whole lot. So
we have one bot that I don't know what it does anymore. I don't remember what I set it up to do, or something with an RSS feed in the news channel. And then I tried to add another feed later, had no idea how to do it. But we have a job board channel on the, and obviously you don't want this at a company where people can just surf the web, surf the Discord for new jobs.
I was saying job opportunities.
No, really. It's like, hey.
Yeah, we'll probably skip that one.
Here's your conference room, and here's where you go find another job.
Yeah.
The con folks at Remote Game Jobs and work with indies set up web hooks, so you can go to our Discord server and there's a constant live feed of jobs being posted around the world. And so it is always interesting because I'm like, there's so much stuff you can do with bots. I don't have time. I don't code anymore. Even sitting down and figuring out how to set one up sometimes is a bit beyond me. So I'm always kind of curious as to what works and what doesn't work.
I think that there's a lot you can do, and it's limited largely by your creativity and ability to implement. But it's definitely something we do make use of, and I think that we probably could make more use of as well. Discord also has robust, user roles and permissions features and stuff, which makes it useful. And we have different user groups for executives, development, operations, support, marketing, people ops. Different groups like that have their own roles in the Discord system and associated sort of permissions and subscriptions and stuff like that.
So this is kind of ties back into, it works for an office, but it also works for a community in general. You mentioned in your article that even though they were using Slack and some other platforms, the use of it had dried up, basically.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get people re-engaged? Obviously they were already working remotely. They had been using this stuff.
Well, what I mean is that the usage of those things dried up after the introduction of Discord.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
All right, so disregard that question. All right, sure. So keep in mind, folks, we still got about 10 minutes here, and wherever you're watching us from, if you've got a question, drop it in chat. We'll see it, right here live, and we'll get Ben to answer it. I see a variance of answers to this question across the industry, but the funny thing is, it doesn't seem to matter where. There's not like one country is this versus another. Where do you see our offices in 24 months?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. So, assuming we're jumping forward to a, fantasy scenario that I hope we will achieve, where, effectively COVID is considered to be, for lack of a better term, under control, or, no longer a significant concern, which obviously is not guaranteed, but I'm optimistic that we will get there. I think the question of sort of, what does work for knowledge workers look like in that scenario, in that not too distant future, is a really interesting one. I imagine that, there's no single answer to that. And I think that different places will respond to this experience in their own ways. But I think that one thing I expect to see, and one thing that I would probably advocate for or move towards myself, would be a more hybrid scenario where I don't want to see offices go away. I think that particularly for creative workers, magic happens when you get creative people in the same place and they have the opportunity to solve problems, in an emergent and very, very collaborative way that is just impossible to replicate even with a tool like Discord. So I don't see that going away, but I think it's also clear that a lot of us can be pretty productive working from our home offices. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see a 3-day work week at the office with a 2-day work from home, and I think that would work really great. I think a lot of people would really love that, right? And we would probably be more enthusiastic about going into the office and more productive while we're there if we also knew that we were going to have the added convenience, comfort, and flexibility that comes from working from home a couple of days a week. And if you got creative about scheduling that so that the key people who needed to be, in the office at the same time were in the office at the same time, you could conceivably create and I don't know, this probably wouldn't work for everybody, but you could even have like a smaller office for a team of the same size with the expectation that, half the team is in there half the week and the other half the team is in there the other half of the week. And so, you share space, but you get more time working from home and you have a smaller office, but you can still make sure that, when you need to have a creative problem solving session, it'll be on a Tuesday and everybody on the team is going to be at the office on Tuesday. So that's where we'll do that meeting. And, then we'll all head back home on Wednesday to, do the work that came out of the meeting or something like that. So that's kind of what I would at least try to implement if it were up to me when this is all behind us.
And this is coming from a man who has had COVID.
I have. It's true. I was very, very fortunate.
He had hair like 8 months ago and gone.
Untrue.
So I just got a question. Knowing the power of Discord, does that encourage you to consider hiring people that work remote only?
It would. It definitely makes me more comfortable with the idea of hiring people who are remote only. Like I said, I still, in an ideal world, think there's a lot of value, at least in having your core team members be able to spend some of their work week in the same place as each other. And I think that value extends really to as many of the team members that you can make that true for. But if you're in a situation where you go, man, we just really need this one particular individual and they, have a sweet setup in Hawaii and they're not willing to come to Los Angeles, I'm a lot more willing to consider that kind of arrangement or exception than I might have been 6 months ago.
It's created a whole new dynamic. And I read an article recently somewhere about how COVID could be, it's an online article, so they blew it out of proportion to get some clicks. But, they were like, is this going to leave major cities deserted? And it's like, no, it's not going to leave.
No.
But, now, I think there is a large subset of the workforce that's like, I don't have to be in an office and everything seems to be fine. And so do I need this apartment in LA that I'm paying God knows how much money for, or can I move up to a mountain house in North Carolina where shit's a lot cheaper?
Right.
And
as is the case with most things in life, these are going to be questions of degrees, right? Like, these are going to be changes that happen at the margins. There's going to be people, like me who just really like being in a city and will, you'll have to drag me kicking and screaming to leave central Los Angeles. And then there's people for whom it's a necessary evil because they don't want to have a bad commute. And if all of a sudden you're saying, well, you only need to commute 2 or 3 days a week, they go, well, maybe it's worth it to move to the suburbs where I can have more space and I only have to deal with that commute 3 days a week. That's fine. I'll do it. And so you'll get a percentage of people who shift, but nothing's going to be, it's not binary, right? Like it's not going to be all or nothing. So I think you'll see a marginal shift in that direction for sure.
I talked to a publisher, it was several months ago. But he said he was in Germany and had an hour and a half commute each way in and back out. And I know folks that have worked, in DC, good friends of mine who were at Nat Geo that had similar commutes. It was like an hour and a half going to and coming back. And, this publisher that I talked to, he said, we're not going back to this. He said, I've discovered 3 hours of my day
Yeah.
I have now, and it's just not gonna.
Yeah, it's
not
game changing. And and it's funny. I was thinking about this last night as well. Just the broader question of remote, work, and the pros and cons associated with it. Sorry, did you hear my 1-year-old in the background there?
I know that squeal. Yeah.
And I think what's interesting to me is that all of these things are often sort of double-edged swords, even in the ways that it's so much about perspective, I guess is my point. Like, take for instance the idea of not having a commute, right? Saying, okay, well, I don't have a commute. Most people will go, oh, that's a pro, right? And I would say, well, yeah, in some respects it is a pro, right? Like, it's you can literally be at work in a moment, and you don't have to commute. You can work in your pajamas. You can take advantage of that extra time to be productive during your day. So those are all pros associated with not having a commute. But there are cons. Like, it occurred to me, for one thing, obviously it's much easier to find yourself working crazy hours, because that 3 extra hours of commuting could just turn into 3 extra hours at your desk, and now your 8-hour day is an 11-hour day. And then you get up and this has been my experience many times, is you get up and you leave your office room, you walk into the other room where your family is, and you enjoy dinner or something like that. But as soon as you walk back past the office, you see all these little things blinking and beeping, and that are like, why aren't you here dealing with me? And it can suck you back in after dinner and into your evening and stuff very easily. That's true if you have a home office and you just VPN in from home from a regular job too, but it's particularly true. It has been for me. Another thing that was really interesting to me was, like, even if you just want to think about it in terms of productivity, having my family in the next room is at times bad for my productivity, right? Like, you just heard the baby screaming. Like, that happens several times a day. Sometimes it happens enough that I'm like, oh shit, I need to go see what that's all about, right? That's a productivity. If the baby's going out of his mind, right, or there's something he's done that's suddenly a problem, and I'm at work 45 minutes from here, there's virtually zero chance my wife is going to call me to help her deal with that, right? If I'm here and it's in there, the chances that all of a sudden my wife is like, babe, can you come help me with this? That goes way up, right? So the level of interruption, the level of expected availability for the family, right? And it's like, again, is it a pro or a con that I'm available to walk my dog in the middle of the afternoon, right? It's a pro. It's a great break. It's a nice way to spend some time with the family. It's a con in that it's an interruption of my workday. So, these things cut in both directions.
I'm going to break in here because I found a solution for the thing of, like, oh, you walk by and there's things blinking and you sit down, because I've done that a lot. Turn off your effing computer.
Well, okay.
It works amazing.
But here's the problem. Here's the problem. Let me tell you why it doesn't work.
It's so nice to walk in here and go, like, oh, the monitors are off.
The problem is,
go somewhere else.
But what happens to the 15 tabs that I have open that I hadn't got around to doing yet?
You could just turn off your monitor to solve that. But the problem is, I'm often coming back to my computer at 8 p.m. after the baby's gone to bed to play games, because that's where my fun is supposed to be. Except then I sit down and I pull up my computer, look at my games, and I'm like, oh shit, I can't play games right now. I got to go deal with all these messages that are popping up.
You shouldn't have sat down.
So, here's what made the difference for me. At our old house, my office was the room off the living room, and so it was like,
my bed is right there.
Here at this house, I physically have to go outside, open a door, downstairs, open another door, come in. There's no access to my office from inside the house.
Yeah, but hey, just think how much time you'd save if your office was in your bedroom.
No,
save on the commute time.
That's not a good thing. That's
all right. I'm going to bounce over to the other one to get the next session set up. So
you go do that. We got a question from Nightwolf that Ben and I completely glossed over because. All right, so last question, and then Ben's on the Discord server. Hopefully, he's going to stick around this time and not completely bail on us like he does, other times when we do this. So if you have a question that he and I haven't rambled through yet, hop on the Discord. There's an after session channel all your problems will be solved. So
I'll be here for at least a half hour.
Yeah, until the baby screams. Does the Discord office setup get harder to manage the larger you get, or does it make it easier than going to many different people, locations, times, etc.?
It's a good question. I can't directly respond to it from experience because the team that I'm working with is about a 20 to 25 person team and hasn't really grown substantially in the months that I've been doing this. But, my expectation would be that in many respects it makes growth easier and less costly, right? Like you don't need to, oh shit, we're out of office space. Now we need to move, so that we can have a bigger team, or like now we need to, add a wing, or like whatever it is that you do when you run into those kinds of problems. So I think it dramatically reduces those costs and those frictions, at least theoretically. But it does sort of, beg the question of how you effectively onboard people into this system. And I would say there is probably some work associated with, making that, if you're talking about suddenly trying to deploy this across an organization of hundreds or thousands of people, you're probably going to want to, there's going to be some more work there, but it's probably a lot cheaper than buying a building or something like that. So.
Dude, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Keep doing what you do, and because I love having these chats, whether we're doing it now or we're doing it whenever. Once again, we had the link up. We'll put the link in the descriptions. All of this stuff is recorded. It's not going anywhere. To the article that Ben wrote about all this, if you want to go back and reference that, or if you've got questions, hit us up on the Discord as well. All right. So
thanks for having me, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Pleasure. Always a pleasure. So stick around, because next we have our keynote address. Again, the beauty of a digital conference is I can have the keynote whenever I want it. It doesn't really matter. I'm not trying to get people in the door and out of the bar or anything. So Phil Adam and
one of my favorite people.
I know, it's awesome. Yeah. It was like they're going to talk about navigating the biz dev landscape over the course of their career. These are two people who are now, executives at Intellivision, and they apparently had a big announcement today. And I honestly, God, don't know what it is because I haven't had time to look. But I mean, we're talking about folks that have been at Konami and all of these huge studios over the year. Phil was the guy who signed. Right? What's that?
Wasn't he Interplay?
Yeah, Phil's the one that signed Ray and Greg and did the original Baldur's Gate. So they're going to walk us through their career, tell war stories, and you will not meet two nicer people in the industry.
My biggest complaint about this online-only conference is that I don't get to go out drinking with Phil Adam afterwards. That's got to be, one of the great sacrifices. So.
Well, maybe I'll go get a beer and I'll drink, while I'm watching. Phil. So
now you're thinking, Jay.
All right, I got to go get that ready. Stay tuned wherever you are, like or follow or whatever you need to do so you get a notification. But I can tell you we'll be back in roughly 6 minutes with our keynote.
Thanks again.
Thanks, dude. Talk to you later. Yep.